The Abrahamic Covenant is an unconditional covenant made between God and the children of Israel. Being an unconditional covenant means there were no conditions that the children of Israel had to keep in order for the covenant to remain in effect. Because the Abrahamic Covenant is an unconditional covenant, the keeping of the Abrahamic Covenant rests solely on God's ability to keep the covenant. It doesn't matter how unfaithful the children of Israel are or have been to God. The Abrahamic Covenant is still in effect to this very day and always will be in effect simply because God is incapable of breaking his unconditional covenant. Otherwise, if he broke it, he wouldn't be God. One part of the Abrahamic Covenant, which is found in Genesis 12, verse 3, says, "And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee." If you look at history, you'll see the reality of the blessings and curses of Genesis 12, verse 3 in real life. Now I'm going to give you some historical background and a few examples to show you what I mean. Now, according to Deuteronomy 28, I'm not going to read it. It's a long chapter. You can have a read of it. So according to Deuteronomy 28, the children of Israel would either be blessed by God or suffer the consequences for their disobedience. These blessings and consequences have absolutely nothing to do with the Abrahamic Covenant. They are for Israel's obedience and disobedience to the Mosaic Law. Now, as a side note to this, many Christians today teach that the blessings found in Deuteronomy 28 are for the church today. That is a false teaching. The blessings in Deuteronomy 28 are strictly for the children of Israel. Now, what's funny about this is those who claim the blessings in Deuteronomy 28 are for the church do not claim that the consequences are for the church. They don't like the consequences, so they say that the blessings are for the church, but the consequences are for Israel. After the reign of King Solomon, the nation of Israel was divided into two kingdoms. Israel to the north, and that consisted of 10 tribes, and Judah to the south, which consisted of 2 tribes. Now, starting around the year 732 BC, the Assyrian Empire invaded the northern kingdom of Israel. The reason this happened? Israel's disobedience. They were going to suffer the consequences of Deuteronomy 28. 1 Chronicles chapter 5, verses 25 to 26 say, "And they transgressed against the God of their fathers, and went a-whoring after the gods of the people of the land, whom God destroyed before them. And the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria. And he carried them away, even the Reubenites, and the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Halah, and Habor, and Hara, and to the river Gozan unto this day." God lives up to his word. The children of Israel disobeyed the Mosaic Law, and they had to suffer the consequences. God raised up the Assyrians to punish the northern tribe of Israel. The northern kingdom of Israel was totally conquered by the Assyrians in 722 BC. So what happened to the Assyrians? Even though they were employed by God to punish Israel, they still had to pay the price for their treatment of God's chosen people of Israel. History records the fall sometime between 612 and 609 BC. Assyria was destroyed by the Medo-Babylonians. Today, Assyria no longer exists. The once powerful Assyrian Empire is nothing but a history lesson. The Assyrian Empire suffered the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3. The Babylonians were the next to go after God's chosen people. They attacked Judah, the southern tribe, several times between 607 and 586 BC. The Babylonians overthrew Jerusalem. They destroyed the temple. They killed many Jewish people and took thousands of Jewish people captive to Babylon. 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 8 to 12 say, "And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard brake down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. But the captain of the guard left of the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen." Babylon was a greatly feared empire prior to destroying Judah. Where is Babylon today? The Babylonian Empire fell to the Persians around 539 BC. Just like Assyria, Babylon suffered the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3, and became nothing more than a history lesson. The Grecian army was at one time the world power. Under Alexander the Great, the Grecian Empire extended from Greece all the way to the western part of India, south into parts of Egypt and northern parts of Africa, and north to the southern tip of the Caspian Sea. Under Antiochus Epiphanes, a Greek-Syrian ruler, the Grecians forbade the Jewish people from practicing their religion. Antiochus desecrated the temple in Jerusalem by sacrificing a pig on the altar. He stole some of the temple furnishings and killed many of the Jewish people. What happened to the once powerful Grecian Empire? Although Greece is still a nation today, the Grecian Empire fell to the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3, when they fell to the Roman Empire in 146 BC. The Roman Empire was massive. It covered almost all of Europe and northern Africa, and as far west as the Caspian Sea. It was the largest and most powerful empire the world had ever known at that time. Rome destroyed Jerusalem and the temple in AD 70. Rome either killed or enslaved many Jewish people. That, plus 2 more wars with Israel, was the beginning of the end for the Roman Empire. Political strife, social problems, economic troubles, military problems, and rampant sexual immorality all led to the fall of Rome around 476 AD. Rome suffered the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3. Now, if you study history, especially the history of Rome, it's amazing how much the Roman Empire, prior to its fall, looks eerily similar to the United States and much of the world today. I'm going to go a little more modern here. I'm going to look at the British Empire. The British Empire started its rise as a global empire around the late 1500s and early 1600s AD. At its peak, the British Empire ruled almost 1/4 of the world's land and almost 1/4 of the world's population. All of Canada, parts of the United States, Australia, New Zealand, India, Burma, parts of Antarctica, around 1/4 of Africa, and islands in the Caribbean were all parts of the British Empire. The British Empire lasted for about 300 years. What brought about its demise? Under Neville Chamberlain, the British government issued the White Paper of 1939, which limited Jewish immigration to Israel to 75,000 people for 5 years. Any further immigration of the Jewish people to the land of Israel would be determined by Arabs. By restricting Jewish immigration to Israel meant Britain stopped Jewish people who wanted to flee Nazi Germany for safety to their God-given homeland of Israel. This meant that Britain was complicit in keeping Jewish people in Nazi Germany to suffer the brutalities of the Holocaust. Where's the British Empire today? By the time Israel became a nation in 1948, the British Empire was almost non-existent. They're still around as a country today, but not an empire. Britain suffered the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3. A nation that wanted to be a global power was Nazi Germany. What Nazi Germany did to the Jewish people in the Holocaust is almost beyond human comprehension. It shows you the literal depravity of humanity. Death marches, gas chambers, the most inhumane medical experiments done on Jewish people, torture, overwork, starvation, executions. So what happened to Nazi Germany after World War II? From October 7th, 1949 until October 3rd, 1990, the country of Germany was divided into two, East and West Germany. East Germany was communist. In 1961, the infamous Berlin Wall was constructed. The Berlin Wall separated communist East Berlin from the rest of the world. East Berlin was nothing but a communist prison. What's amazing about the Berlin Wall was its similarities to some of the concentration camps used to imprison Jewish people in World War II. Just like the concentration camps had walls of between 9 and 13 feet, the Berlin Wall was between 9 and 13 feet. Just like the walls of the concentration camps were meant to keep Jewish people from escaping to freedom, the Berlin Wall was meant to keep German people from escaping to freedom. Just like the concentration camps had guard towers where guards could watch over and shoot Jewish people trying to escape the horrors of Nazi concentration camps, the Berlin Wall had guard towers where guards could watch over and shoot Germans trying to escape the horrors of communist East Berlin. For their treatment of the Jewish people, Germany suffered the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3. Let me get a little more modern, a little more up to date. Genesis 12, verse 3 also says, "And I will bless them that bless thee." So there's a blessing aspect of the Abrahamic Covenant. God blesses those who bless Israel. In 2008, the world faced a major financial crisis. At that time, Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister of Canada. Stephen Harper is pro-Israel. The global recession of 2008 was less severe and shorter in Canada than all of the other G7 nations. Canada was blessed by God because of a prime minister that was pro-Israel. Now look at the US. Obama is anti-Israel. Obama was president from 2009 to 2017. Project Cassandra was launched in 2008 by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. With the help of 30 foreign security agents, Project Cassandra was tracking illegal drug shipments, illegal weapons shipments, money laundering, and other illegal activities all coming into the U.S. to the tune of about $1 billion a year. Who was behind all this illegal activity coming into the U.S.? The Iranian-backed terrorist organization known as Hezbollah. And we know that both Hezbollah and Iran hate both Israel and the U.S. What was Obama doing to stop all of this? Not what you think. Instead of trying to stop Hezbollah from all of their illegal activities happening in the US, Obama was trying to stop Project Cassandra from stopping Hezbollah. Obama wanted to save a nuclear deal with Iran, a nation that is a state sponsor of terrorism and an enemy of the United States and Israel. So Obama was trying to shut Project Cassandra down in order to appease Iran. That means Obama was knowingly supporting a terrorist organization and a nation bent on the destruction of both the US and Israel. Trump, on the other hand, is pro-Israel. And like him or not, the US did amazingly well under President Trump. The US economy was the best it had been in 50 years under Trump. Black and Hispanic Americans, along with former service people, were having the best employment rates in the US ever under President Trump. The US was seeing the blessings of Genesis 12, verse 3. Now, I believe Obama laid the groundwork for the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3 to hit the United States. And that groundwork has stepped up a notch under Joe Biden. Like Obama, Biden is a Democrat, and the current Democratic Party is anti-Israel. Under Trudeau, Canada is no better. Trudeau is anti-Israel. The current state of the US under Biden and Canada under Trudeau is eerily similar to the state of the Roman Empire before it fell. There's political strife in both nations, an opioid crisis in both nations, a homeless epidemic in both nations, poverty is out of control in both nations, government spending is out of control in both nations, inflation is ramping up, even the employed can't afford housing in Canada. There are calls to get rid of the police. Both nations' militaries are in terrible shape. There's an actual invasion at the US southern border with millions of illegal immigrants entering the country illegally. Meanwhile, immigrants coming to Canada are leaving Canada because they can't afford to live in the nation. Europe is facing their own set of problems brought on by mass immigration. Violent crime from immigrant gangs has led to no-go zones in some European cities, and rape and human trafficking by Islamic gangs is well documented. There's an energy crisis because of the war in Ukraine. Farmers have been protesting because governments are trying to shut down farms in the name of climate change. Many Europeans are saying Europe has lost its identity. Zechariah 2 verse 8 says, "For thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye." The enemies of Israel are the enemies of God. You harm Israel, and it's like you're poking God in the eye. Getting poked in the eye doesn't feel good. So right now, God doesn't feel very good because much of the world is treating Israel extremely badly. Right now, God's getting poked in the eye. Right now, much of the world is calling for a ceasefire on the part of Israel. Right now, the world is not calling for a ceasefire on the part of Hamas. Right now, the world is accusing Israel of genocide, which is a lie because Israel has given the Palestinians safe passage out of Gaza. Right now, the world is not accusing Hamas of genocide, which is a lie because the Hamas charter calls for Israel's genocide, as does other Islamic groups. Right now, there's very little global outrage and protests to stop the Russia-Ukraine war. Right now, there's a lot of global outrage and protests to stop this war Hamas started, simply because Israel is winning. The anti-Semitic United Nations hates Israel. In 2020, the UN condemned Israel 17 times, compared to 6 times for the rest of the world combined. In 2022, the UN condemned Israel 15 times, 13 times for the rest of the world combined. Much of the world hates Israel. Israel is always told by the world to show restraint when Hamas, Hezbollah, or any of Israel's other enemies attack the nation. Much of the world is calling for a boycott of Israel. Much of the world is telling us that Israel is an oppressive state. Much of the world, and even many Christians, are telling us that the land of Israel doesn't belong to Israel, even though the land was given to the children of Israel by the Creator God of the universe. Global anti-Semitism is at an all-time high because to much of the world, Jewish lives don't matter. You get a Bible and read Romans chapter 1, verses 18 to 32. That portion of Scripture is a picture of life in America, Canada, and much of the world today. Much of the world has rejected God, so God is letting the world have it their way. By looking at Romans chapter 1, verses 18 to 23, if you were to ask me, I would say that much of the world is feeling the effects of the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3. If I'm right, and the world is coming under the curse of Genesis 12, verse 3, we could very well be witnessing the stage setting for the final 7-year period in this stage of human history known as Daniel's 70th week. That is when the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob pours out his wrath on the entire world. And you can read about that in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, the whole chapter of Matthew 24, and the entire book of Revelation. If you think the world has gone insane these last few years, you ain't seen nothing yet. Thanks for watching.